Chest for me was always one of those muscle groups that I wanted to train and grow from an early age. I remember being about 14 years old. I was in the garden of our family home, and our window cleaner was a world powerlifting champion. And I remember going up to him with one of those lifestyle magazines and saying, how do I look like the guy on the cover? Thinking that if I just did chest exercises, that's how I would look. That then started my whole passion and hunger for fitness and bodybuilding as a whole. Understanding how the body worked and that you had to train the body as a whole. But I remember specifically asking about chest and biceps. And so he took me along to the local bodybuilding gym in South England, and I was barely 15 at the time, and that's where I fell in love with weight training. Understanding all of the exercises, how to do them, about the weights, progressively increasing resistance over time, and really setting a goal for 3 or 6 months ahead of me to get to where I wanted to be. Fast forward quite a few more years, and you can see that I'm here at the Mecca of bodybuilding, Venice Gold Gym in California, and this is now my home. Very fortunate to be able to work out and train here. And so today I wanted to take you back to one of those first workouts that I did in that gym in England, showing you the exercises and many of the tips and techniques and methods that I learned within those first few months and years of training. So follow me inside. This is perfect for beginners and all the way up to advanced and professional trainers. And hopefully I can open out some new thoughts and methods that you can incorporate into your chest workout with specific aim towards the upper portion of the chest and getting that depth and thickness. All right, let's get to it. You know, this whole video series and the videos before that, we've been talking about time. A throwback to yesteryear when I first started. This 14, 15-year-old kid, didn't know anything, and yet here I am today at Gold Gym, the center of everything fitness. And so it's a perfect timing to give a shout out to these guys, Yode. Pronounced Yode, J-O-R-D. They make these wooden watches. I'm a big fan of watches, and these guys have been with me for the past year since launching. Really great detail, made of all natural wood, lightweight, and with the focus being on time, it's the perfect complementary partner to go with our video series. So I'm gonna take this watch off, keep this for after, and use the link below. You can get 20% off an order, and we're running a campaign. You can get $180 off your watch. This one is the ebony copper watch, one of my favorites, and it practically goes with everything. So check them out. This is gonna go in my bag for after, and let's get on with our chest workout, focusing on the big basic movements.
If you want to be a champion, you've got to analyze yourself. You've got to recognize your weakness, and you've got to change that weakness into power.
One of the first things I learned about chest training within the first few weeks of getting into the gym was about mobility, stretching, warming up. This is coming from the big bodybuilders, the guys who have had years of experience, who really understand the body, the anatomy, the muscles, the training. So Bob, my mentor when I was 15 years old, taught me very early on about the need for a warm-up with chest and any other exercise. Not to just jump in with that first big heavy exercise and start lifting weights. Every type of movement that the chest or any other muscle can do, chest for example, it can press, it can open out, plus we have a whole range of other movements depending on the angles and the types of exercise. So spend the first 5 or even 10 minutes doing a light circuit. You don't need to be focusing on heavy weights, you don't need to be really contracting and squeezing the muscle. Just get the body used to going through that range of motion. Any type of movement that you're going to be doing throughout that workout, especially focusing on the larger muscle groups, do those same movements with a light weight. 15, 20 repetitions, 1 or 2 circuits, include some light active stretching around that muscle. You're also going to be mentally prepared for the workout ahead, as opposed to just warming up that muscle for that particular movement. Clips, don't lift without them. Might seem like they're a complete beginner, and if you've been training for a number of years, you don't really need them, but there will come a time where you haven't got the clips on, and for whatever reason you're going to be off balance, as soon as one weight starts to slide and you start to try and correct it, you don't want to do that. Always use clips no matter what weight that you're lifting. Deadlift, squats especially, bench press, if it's got an Olympic bar and free weights on the end, make sure you lift with a clip, safety first. Okay, we're gonna warm up here. Even though I'm kind of warmed up with my chest already, it's a new movement. I'm gonna be progressively increasing that weight up. So the first or second set is still a kind of a warm up to prepare that muscle, to make sure that I feel good lifting that weight. And then my goal is to fairly quickly get up to the heaviest weight I can lift. So by the third main working set, my goal is to be lifting as heavy as I can for at least 8 reps with this exercise. Now we can start to put some real weight on, overload the muscle. My goal is to get to beyond that level of what's comfortable. See, that was only about less than 15% increment jump up. And I went from 10 reps fairly comfortably down to, I think 5. Quite a struggle towards the end. A couple of things there. One, I think my recovery time was a little bit too short. Needed an extra 30 seconds or a minute. And 2, maybe I'm just not as strong as I used to be. That can't be. I don't believe that. Let's do an overload set now. I like this. I learned about this after a good 6 months of training. So once I've hit my threshold, the maximum amount of weight that I can lift for a minimum amount of reps, let's say 5. So now I'm gonna purposely overload. I'm gonna add more weight than I can manage. Just a bit, another 10, 15%. Have a spotter, someone to assist and lift and just spot to make sure I can get that weight back up. The goal of this is that my body now has to cope with a much heavier weight than it can manage on its own. You know, a big part of that is probably psychological. Just knowing that I've got someone there to support me when I really need it. In the sense that if I were to fail at any point, it's not going to come crashing down on me. That's another big point that I want you all to incorporate. Whether you're a beginner or advanced athlete, beginner, weekend warrior, whatever it might be. If you're lifting heavy, don't go at it alone. I'm feeling good. Let's drop that weight back down to the previous thing and see if I can beat that 5 reps. My chest is on fire now. Feels completely swelled up with blood. It's got the oxygen, nutrients in there. I'm feeling really mobile. And I'm feeling good up here that I can keep on going and push on with my chest workout. So, final notes about this. You can see I've spent a lot of time on one exercise. And I like to do this, especially on bigger muscle groups, chest, back, legs. It's always the first 1 and 2 exercises, the big compound, multi-joint type exercises that I spend a good portion, half the workout on. I want to maximize my strength, rep out with the heaviest weight, and just really feel like I've lifted heavy weight. And then from here, I can now move on to some more isolation type, machine, cable-based movements, really just to finish off what I've got left in that muscle group and to work it from a variety of different angles. So we're done here. Let's move on. And the next exercise that I remember doing early on in my, my training, dumbbell flies. We're sticking with the basics here. Dumbbell flies, fantastic exercise for opening out, stretching the chest, and enabling us to develop a little bit more thickness, that depth, with the insertion of the chest right there. So for this one, I'm just gonna stick with a flat bench press. Do not underestimate just what a good dumbbell exercise can do, like the flies here. It really does open out, stretch, recruit all of those chest fibers that you don't really get to activate with many of the pressing movements. Another thing here, arm fixture. Keeping this arm slightly bent at the elbow. You don't want to lock it out fully. You're contracting the triceps, taking some of that emphasis and work off of the chest. So this is an age-old saying, imagine you're hugging a tree, and that's the kind of arm position that you should have when flying, both with cables, dumbbells, and the machine. It's a fantastic exercise. I'm going to superset this one with some parallel bar dips, which I know many of you are probably thinking that's for triceps, but by really emphasizing that tilt forwards, you're stretching out the chest. It's a great sort of active recovery and also a good pump for the chest in between these sets. So let's head over there into room 2. Incredible pump, look. We get all of those chest striations and fibers recruited and working. 2 or 3 exercises done now. Incline bench press, and then I superset those dumbbell flies with that really fantastic tilted forwards dip. I'm gonna add in 2 sets of overhead pullovers, really just as an active stretch. Make sure that those chest fibers aren't starting to close and tighten up from those heavy exercises. So 2 sets here, straight sets, focusing on no less than 10 or 12 reps. And then I'm gonna jump back for the final 2 exercises of this chest workout with a press and another fly type movement. You know, this is another exercise that you really shouldn't underestimate and not include it as part of your chest workout. Regardless whether your goal is to grow your chest, define it, getting ready for a competition, whatever your training might be, this overhead pullover is certainly an exercise that shouldn't be left out. Even if it's just part of your warm-up or cool-down, just 2 sets like I'm doing. It's a movement that the chest doesn't really go through with any of the other exercises that we're doing today. Just a really great stretch, brings out all of those fibers and opens them up, and it just leaves you feeling just better moving on to that next pressing movement or fly. Back to the bench press. Many of you, and myself included, at a time might think that the bench press is the exercise that you start with. And there's plenty of good reasons why it can and should be. But let me tell you why I'm keeping it more towards the end. My goal for chest has always been about being part of my physique, that overall package. I don't just want a big chest and not have shoulders or arms to match it. So for me, the upper chest was always my focus, that region I wanted to develop. Incline bench press was the cornerstone of a good chest workout, with that being the focus. Then we've got the heavier free weights with dumbbells, back to our machine. So flat bench press is more of an afterthought with this, and my focus is on getting a little bit higher reps. Working that fatigue element of my training, 12, 15 reps, hence why I'm not going too heavy. And then from here, the final exercise is gonna be back to those flies with cables. And also you can see, I've got a little platform here to keep my feet up onto, which enables me to keep the lower portion of my back completely flat. I'm not arching it, and I get a broader width of my whole chest to be able to lift from. Very different feeling than if you're putting your feet on the floor and arching your back. Got a couple of options here. You can either use machine flies to finish off with, cable flies, and with cable, you got a whole range of different angles and fixtures that you can do. With me, I like to have this a little bit higher, about shoulder height, tilting forwards at the waist, and then just having my chest above that movement instead of more upright. I feel like I can get more tension and squeeze the muscle more effectively that way. What an amazing chest workout. It really has taken me back to everything that I was feeling for those first few months of our training. That excitement, the enthusiasm I had of getting into the gym and knowing exactly what I needed to be doing and knowing where I wanted to get to. And at least a good 10 years later to be in a place like this, the Mecca of bodybuilding, Gold's Gym, be training with all of the Olympians and top level athletes coming in here. It just goes to show that no matter where you're starting from, whatever your goal is, if you're passionate about something, put the time in, block out all the noise, set your goal, work backwards from it. You really don't know what you're going to achieve unless you put that work in. All right guys, I'm gonna go rinse off, shower, change. I gotta be somewhere, but don't go anywhere. I got some more words of wisdom, some training tips, and a glimpse of what's coming next week. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Okay, now that I'm feeling all clean and dressed, I can let you know about next week's video, which we're gonna take cues from this video, a throwback to when I first started out training, calling upon memories, tips, methods, everything that I learned during those first few months of training. Here's what's coming up on next week's video, a little glimpse of our back workouts.